The woman goes to the river to take a bath every day. This time, as soon as she got into the water, she noticed that there was actually a banknote floating on the water beside her. The woman quickly grabbed the banknote for herself. However, as she looked ahead, she found more banknotes floating in front of her. What she didn't expect even more was that the banknotes in the river were just an appetizer. On the nearby shore, there were actually 4 packages of cash placed. The woman had never seen so much money in her life. In order to take all this money away, she found a kayak. But the kayak was too heavy for the woman to move at all. At this time, Jack, who was a suitor of Laura, heard the commotion and came over. Laura had no choice but to bring him over to help. She took Jack to the riverside and threw out the bag containing $8 million in cash. Just as the two of them were plotting how to secretly transport the money away, their friend Klaus appeared, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit awkward. Laura had no choice but to draw another person into the partnership. She calculated that if the money was divided equally, each person could get more than $2 million. But to Laura and Jack's surprise, Klaus didn't want the money. He thought that this money was dangerous and should be handed over to the police. Seeing how honest he was, Laura immediately gave Jack a look, asking him to warn Klaus that it was okay if he didn't want the money, but he needed to keep it a secret. Looking at these two greedy people, Klaus decided to part ways with them. After the person left, Laura and Jack tied the bag to the kayak. In order not to arouse anyone's suspicion, they deliberately chose a remote river to move along. As a result, under Jack's command, they somehow ended up at a beach where tourists were playing. There were also several police officers standing on the shore. Laura was very angry, but what was even worse was that because the bag wasn't tied firmly, they didn't know when they had lost one bag of money. Looking at Jack's clumsy appearance, Laura was so angry that she decided to stuff the money into her backpack, and then called Klaus for help. Unfortunately, after the three of them separated, Klaus met Alan, the owner of this money. Originally, the two of them were chatting casually. It wasn't until Laura called Klaus that all of their conversation was heard by Alan. Realizing that something was wrong, Klaus immediately left Alan's side and joined Laura and Jack. The three of them took the kayak and wanted to get away from this area as soon as possible. Little did they know that Alan had already taken out a sniper rifle from the trunk and was ready to shoot them.